All right, hello, welcome back. This episode is called The Pursuit of Peace. In the last Sunday of January, the message at my church was all about peace. And I don't want to plagiarize anything from my pastor. So if you want to see that sermon in its entirety, please look for that sermon on YouTube. It's called How Are You? And you can find it at the Community Bible Church YouTube platform. But one of the things that Pastor Ed talked about is how Jesus is the source of all peace. Romans 5:1 says, "Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ." Pastor Ed said that peace is freedom from disruption and fear is the opposite of peace. And he also had a great example of sustained peace versus momentary peace using a pianist to accompany his point. And it was a really good, concrete example of that. So peace has always been a struggle and a challenge for me. Um, I'm very good at momentary peace. I'm very good at creating moments, of taking care of needs in a moment. Whether it's my kids needing something or my wife needing something. When I was a principal, taking care of things from a budget standpoint to make sure that needs were being met. I was very good at that part of it, in meeting those needs and creating that momentary peace. But having sustained peace has always been a challenge for me. Even though we are told in Philippians 4 to not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And that's Philippians 4 6 through 7. I don't know that I'm the only one that's alone with peace being a challenge or being anxious about things. And a lot of times it's because we try to do things our way, or at least I'm speaking for myself. Um, a lot of times I still want to be the one in charge instead of fully giving that over to God. And even though I know His way is better, a lot of times I still want that ownership, and that creates some turmoil and it takes away peace. And that's why I always have struggled with sustained peace. Usually it's because I can't get out of my own way. Earlier today, I saw this on Instagram about starting each day with prayer and specifically saying, Lord, lead the way today. In Psalm 119, 105, that's reiterated again. Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light for my path. I say this often when I pray, Lord, light my steps. I also start each of my prayers with thanks to Him because there's always a long list of things to be grateful for. And we're also commanded to do that if you look at the model of the Lord's Prayer. But to be able to listen to God, you have to know His Word. And you can't know His Word unless you read His Word. And that's been my revelation over the past 3 months or so. His way is definitely better than mine. I have to surrender and trust everything to Him in obedience. And right now, I'm reading two different devotionals when I get up in the morning, or sometimes it's in the wee hours of the night when I can't sleep. And then I'm also doing a plan from the Bible app about reading through the book of Job. And I'm on day 4 of this 10-day plan. And let me tell you, reading Job hits hard. I can't believe how strong that man's faith is. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just into day 4 of that. I've read about Job before, but I've never read the whole chapter. And so I'm really learning a lot about this man's faith and all of the tribulation that he went through. Speaking of that, a week ago today, I was in Dallas, Texas. I'm traveling for work, and one of my best friends from high school gives me a call, and I wasn't able to take the call in the moment. He sent me a text, and he just said, "Hey, I just had a praise report for you." So I called him back as quick as I could. And I don't know if you recall my friend Stephen Burse. We called him Nunu growing up, and anyhow, Nunu had an accident that was pretty bad. He was riding his bike to work, got struck by a car. Um, he was injured pretty badly. Of course, as soon as I found out, I reached out to him, prayed on his behalf multiple times until he recovered and was able to get back to work. Well, he called me and told me this incredulous story and wanted me to share it with you. And so I'm going to do that in honor of him. But basically, long story short is, Nunu had been riding a bike to work, and that was his means of transportation at this time of his life. And so there was a man that asked him, why he was on a bike going to work. And he told him, well, this is how I get to work right now. This is what I've got. So the man told him to meet him at a car lot the next day. And Nunu met him at the car lot. And this man bought him a car at that dealership or at that car lot so that he didn't have to ride his bike to work anymore. I mean, what a blessing, unexpected. But again, Nunu's one of those guys that he's got a tremendous amount of faith in our Lord. And he has endured a whole lot in his life. And he has never given up his faith for God. And in this moment, God blessed him with an unexpected gift. Praise be to our Lord. With that said, there have been some unexpected blessings that have come my way as well, just through obedience with tithing. And I got some unexpected checks in the mail the other day that were able to kind of help us make it through with a lot of the bills and such that come after Christmas. January is always kind of a busy time for us, and so that unexpected blessing was greatly received and appreciated. And again, His ways are greater than our ways. Yeah. So with that, just again, so thankful to God for His many blessings, and I'm just thankful He's taking care of my man Nunu up there in Borger, Texas. I pray that he continues to heal. I pray that he continues to be a blessing and a testimony to what God has done through him and doing with him. Shifting to kind of back to my life, high school baseball has started. But it certainly didn't start the way we wanted to. Our first scrimmage against somebody else was on Saturday. We were playing across town at Southwest Legacy. We are looking forward to this. My oldest son's a senior, youngest son's a sophomore, both of them expecting to start for Lee High School this year. And they've worked really, really hard to get ready for this season. They're both very excited. We're all very excited about this season. And Friday, I had gone up to Lee, dropped off some dress shirts that I no longer use. They have this thing called Project Fairy Tale where they collect dress clothes for kids to be able to use for prom. Well, I have a ton of dress shirts that I don't wear anymore because I'm not in that business needing to dress up in shirt and tie as often as I used to. And so I just felt like I might as well donate some of these shirts, and maybe some of the bigger kids that are my size would be able to benefit from having those. They're already dry clean. They're hanging in the closet, not being used. And so anyway, I taken them up to school, dropped them off, left the school. As I'm leaving, my youngest son texts me and says that he's not feeling very well, that he feels sick to his stomach, but he's going to try to tough it out because he definitely didn't want to miss. It was their media day for baseball later that day. They were taking their team pictures and all that kind of stuff. But most importantly, getting ready for the scrimmage on Saturday. He toughed it out for about 2 hours and just wasn't able to make it. Called me or texted me and said, "Dad, if there's any way you can come get me, come get me." So now I got to drive all the way back to the school, which from my house is a good 20-25 minute drive. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. I'm going to encourage you to stay on through the end of this video because I'm going to have a lot to say about public education to wrap this thing up. But anyways, with that said, we're about 20-25 minutes from Lee High School from where I live because my kids are there on school choice. So anywho, went picked Mac up, and he is, if you've ever seen The Sandlot and you see kind of how those kids looked a little green when they were going to throw up on that ride, that's kind of what Mac looked like when I got him. Got him into the truck, took him home. I mean, poor kid, just not doing well. Violently ill from this stomach bug. That's all I'm going to say about that. You can fill in the rest of the picture on that. But he was not good. Took care of him best I could. Got him Pedialyte, got him Gatorade, got him things to try to keep him hydrated. Man, he couldn't keep anything down. Prayed for him. As soon as we got him home, prayed for him that night. Man, he woke up the next day, looked 100%. Problem was, he hadn't eaten anything, hadn't been able to keep anything down. There was no way I was going to let him go play a scrimmage. It is fairly hot. The weather in Texas has warmed up quite a bit this week. And so we just felt like it was best for him not to play as he needed to recover and get ready because we got plenty of baseball coming up. So with that said, John David went to go play. Again, he's a senior. He's ready to go. He's excited. Feels like his swing's on. He's just looking for a big day. So it gets his first at bat in the top of the second inning. He's batting fifth in the lineup, and he hits a fly ball, just missed. I mean, he end capped it a little bit, and if he'd gotten a little bit more of that thing, he thought it would have been gone. But he took off as he's been coached to do, and took off sprinting to first base in case there's an error in the outfield. Maybe he can even stretch that thing into a double because it was deep enough that that could have happened if there was a mistake out there in the outfield. Anyways, as he's running to first base, I noticed like his right leg right before he gets to the base kind of seized up, and then as he rounded the base, um, he's hurt. He pulled his hamstring. He's hobbling back to the dugout. The student trainer comes up to talk to me in the bleachers and tells me, what had happened, that he's done for the day. He's not going to be able to play for the rest of the day. Asked me if I wanted him to have any painkillers. I said, well, if he wants anything, he'll let me know, or he'll let you know, and then we'll make that determination at that point. My boys don't typically take medicine um, much at all unless they really, really have to. So a couple innings go by, and John David comes out of the dugout. He goes behind the dugout, and he's emotional. And he kind of looks up at me, and I look back at him, and I'm asking him, do you want me to come over? And he waits for me to come down. And go there and talk to him, and he's got that emotion. He's scared. It's his senior year. He's like, man, I feel this thing's horrible. I can't walk, and I just wrapped him up and hugged him. And one of the things that he was concerned about was whether or not I was mad. And I'm like, son, I'm not mad at you. This is just an unfortunate thing that happened. And my senior year, I actually had a hamstring issue that prevented me through most of the preseason of my senior football season. So I understood exactly how he felt. And I just told him, I said, son, this is not how your story is going to end. We're going to get to treatment. We're going to do what the trainers tell us to do on Monday, see how bad it is. You know, I don't care if you play any of these preseason games. If we can get you back for district, that's what matters. And quite honestly, son, if you can't play this season at all, if it's torn, it is what it is. I mean, we'll deal with it. But praise be to God, that's not the story. So this morning he went to treatment. He calls me and tells me, hey, Dad, there's no tear. Trainer is calling it a grade 2 strain. He shares a treatment plan with me that he's going to do what they call double dip training. So he'll get training in the morning, he'll get training during the baseball period, and then I let him know that, hey, March 12th is your first, or March 11th is your first district game. So you've got plenty of time to recover before district. A few hours pass by, and he texts me saying, hey, the trainer told my coach that they're thinking maybe 2 weeks. And boy, he's excited now. He's going to sit out of practices this week. Next week, they're going to try to slowly work him back in and kind of see where he's at. And my goodness, what a blessing that is that that's the case. We're going to continue to pray for healing because I know that God can work miracles. God can heal anything, and it can happen a lot quicker on his timeline than anybody else's. So with that said, again, we're thankful that Michael has recovered from his stomach bug and that JD is looking like he's on a road to recovery already, because those two boys are very valuable for our success this season, and we're very excited about the season. So we'll just see how things go. I'll kind of keep you updated as we progress. But with that said, I'm also very, very thankful to the athletic training staff that we have at our school. They are really good about working with kids. They're really good about keeping the parents in the loop. And I can't tell you how valuable it is as a parent of a student athlete to have dedicated trainers at a school so that you can get that kind of treatment there without having to go directly to a doctor. If you go to a doctor, they're going to sit you out 4 to 6 weeks just with a note. And once that doctor signs it, that's it. You go to the trainers first, let them look at it. They're skilled in these areas, and they're not going to jump on the most precautionary thing. They're going to look at what's best for the kid and what's best for the team. And every time that we've gone, it has been really good. Why do I bring this up? Why am I emphasizing this so much? Because it is under siege here in the state of Texas. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But educators, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that I still pray for you very, very often. February to spring break. That is one of the toughest stretches of the school year. Shocktober is really tough for teachers. February to spring break is really tough for educators. But man, today it is lighting up about these voucher programs in the state of Texas. And I'm telling you, the funding for education in Texas is under siege like I've never seen it. I challenge everyone that listens to this to look closely at the bills that are being presented here in the state of Texas. It is absolute nonsense, and it will only serve as a program for those parents who already have their children in private school. As I was traveling around for work last week, we were coming back from Lubbock and we stopped in a small restaurant in Ballinger, Texas. And I had a discussion with the owner of this restaurant, whose son was a former coach, but he left education to run another one of the family's restaurants that's in Weatherford. But he had been talking high school football with another customer, and I'm partial to high school athletics with my background as a coach and administrator, so naturally I joined in the conversation. Shared my background about being a former coach and a principal, and the first thing this guy did is say, "I want to ask you a question. Since you know this stuff, tell me about this voucher bill." And I told him how detrimental this bill could possibly be, especially to a small town. Today, there was a press conference with some of the House Democrats, and I'm not making this a political issue one bit. Okay, I'm a very conservative guy, but when it comes to education, I'm always going to side with public education. So many times in my life, I had to vote my conscience versus my career. I can't even tell you how many times I had to carefully consider what was most important when I cast my vote for a candidate. That should not even have to be the case, but that has always been the case. And now that I'm just a citizen, I'm no longer employed by a school district, I can say whatever I want to on this issue. So get ready. I saw a video today that called this voucher program welfare for the wealthy, and I can't tell you how true that statement is. They're talking about giving $10,000 of voucher money to folks that are taking their kids to private school, and I'm assuming that it also goes to those that are homeschooling. I'm going to pause for a minute, take a drink. My beloved Coke Zero. Look, here's the deal. I have no issue with anybody that sends their kids to a private school or homeschools them. I think every parent needs to choose the best setting for their child's education. Just like I talked about earlier that my kids are on school choice. We have plenty of choice within the school system, probably more now than there ever has been. Whether it's a magnet program, whether it's a traditional school choice where you can pick another school in your district if they have room. Some districts have completely opened up their borders to where they're not even worried if you live in their district. You can still apply for school choice to their districts and they will happily accept you. But here's my problem. Is there's a huge issue with this. If you're not planning to attend a public taxpayer funded school, then why in the world do you get to take taxpayer money out of this system that we have in Texas that ranks 43rd out of 50 states right now in educational funding? How are you able to take that money away from the kids who need it the most? The most vulnerable students in the system are going to be the ones that pay the price with their lives and their lack of educational resource. All because of a few folks that line the pockets of politicians to make sure that their dream of destroying public education may come true in 2025. That's all this is about. You have a few people that have invested millions of dollars for candidates to vote for this voucher scam that will eventually lead to the downfall of public education. There are towns that are going to lose schools who don't even have a private school in their county. They're the ones that are at the most risk. Where do those kids go to school if their neighborhood schools have to close? It just doesn't make sense to me. I battled this over and over and over as a campus principal. We faced staffing shortages for I can't even tell you how long due to budget cuts. Since 2019, it just got worse and worse and worse. And if you look at the press conference that the House Democrats did today, they did an excellent job of outlining this. And again, I am not a Democrat by any means. I'm really not a Republican by any means. I'm very independent. I will vote for the best candidate for that particular position. I don't care what party you're in because ain't none of it make a difference anymore anyways. But over the last 4 years of my principalship from 2019 to 2023, I will tell you at Lee High School, I lost 13 teachers. I lost an assistant principal. I lost a family specialist. And I didn't even have a significant decrease in student enrollment. I still had the kids. That's like losing an entire department in a high school because of budget shortages. The funding was just not there. And coming back from COVID, folks, the challenges that the schools are facing, they are still facing these challenges. I don't know how long it's going to be before schools can fully recover from what happened during COVID. The stakes just keep going higher and higher and higher for public schools to perform on standardized tests, but none of this school accountability is required for private schools. Neither do they have to accept all students that show up at their doorsteps. In fact, when students don't do well at a private school, where do they go? They come back to the public school. And now that public school is going to have even less resource available to meet the needs of the kids that were there from day one, and then add on as the year progresses. And any principal will tell you that they add students as the year goes on, even after that funding's been made available. They come in and out. A lot of the schools that I worked at, we didn't even peak until after that snapshot happened. It's just not fair for any single school to receive state aid and not be subjected to accountability standards, open enrollment, or the dreaded STAR test. It's just not fair. If you're going to take the money, then you got to play by the same rules. And if you're not going to play by the same rules, then there shouldn't be any money being diverted away. Or just do away with it altogether. Eliminate the STAR test, eliminate accountability, make the funding equitable. You're going to give $10,000 voucher, you need to give $10,000 funding for each student that's going to a public school. But that's not the case. The funding that's being allotted per pupil is not $10,000. And a lot of these bills, that amount will decrease based on performance and attendance. So back to the whole premise of today's episode is about peace. I pray for peace for everybody that's involved in this situation, especially for the educators and the students that are going to be directly affected by these decisions of legislators who do not have their best interest in mind. Some of the best legislators that I had the pleasure to meet and talk to when I was a principal were primaried out since they did not support Governor Abbott's voucher agenda. I'm going to say it again. The money that these lobbyists put in were used to get opponents lined up in the primaries to eliminate those Republican House members who did not support Governor Abbott. And they were replaced with somebody that would. And the way that that happened in Texas was a lot of scare tactic campaign ads that ran with Governor Abbott saying that they couldn't trust so-and-so to secure the border, to this, to that. Never once did they mention vouchers. Vouchers were the only issue that were contentious with many of these Republicans. It's a shame to see what happened. But here's the thing. I can be as disappointed as I want to be in my state government, but they're not in charge. Jesus is king. My God is in charge. Trust him. Lean not on your own understanding. His way is better. Educators, if you're listening to this, keep taking care of the kids. Keep showing up and doing the job that you've been called to do. It is a tremendous responsibility that you share. And you just never know who you're going to reach. And usually you don't know that until years later when the kids grow up and they look back on who helped them when they needed that help. I think it's very similar to dying and going to heaven and then meeting people there that are in heaven because of something that I said or shared. Like, I hope that that day happens when I get to heaven. I hope that there's somebody that greets me and says, man, I'm here because I listened to you. I'm here because you shared something with me. Be obedient and let God lead. That is where true peace is found. If you've been listening to me over the last couple months doing this, you know that I am pursuing better fitness. I'm very proud to say that I hit the minus 20 pound mark when I last weighed in. I'm going to keep trucking on this journey. But as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. It's probably the longest episode that I've ever made. Stay tuned to what's going on in education here in Texas. If you care about public education, get involved, call your legislators, and let them know your position on the matter. They do represent you. Don't let them forget that. Hey, until next time, may the Lord bless and keep you. Thank you for listening this long. And if there's anything that I can do for you as far as support, email me at davidallencrow5.5 at gmail.com. See you next time.